This drink is sitting in millions of fridges right now. It looks harmless. It's advertised as smart, light, even healthy. And yet, for some, it may be silently reshaping the very vessels that carry blood through the brain. Not over years. Not gradually. But in ways that could raise stroke risk overnight. One patient, mid-40s, fit, non-smoker, arrived in the emergency room with slurred speech and weakness in one arm. A mini-stroke. No family history. No obvious red flags. But as the doctors reviewed his daily habits, a detail stood out. He didn't drink alcohol. He avoided sugary soft drinks. He exercised. But he was consuming 3 cans a day of a sugar-free, artificially sweetened beverage, something he believed was a healthier choice. He wasn't alone. Across clinics and neurology consults, a pattern had begun to emerge. Not sugar. Not alcohol. Something else. And worse because it hides in plain sight, marketed as better. It doesn't taste dangerous. It doesn't carry warning labels. But research now suggests that for certain people, especially when consumed regularly, this drink may disrupt vascular function, raise blood pressure spikes, and subtly alter brain chemistry tied to stroke risk. It is legal. It is everywhere. And many drink it every single day, with no idea what it may be doing inside their heads. In this video, we'll explore the science and the silence around one of the most misunderstood threats to brain health in modern life. The human brain is remarkably delicate, not just in its structure, but in the systems that support it. Though it weighs just over 3 pounds, the brain consumes about 20% of the body's total oxygen. To function, it needs constant blood flow, steady pressure, and a stable chemical environment. When any of those factors change too quickly, the consequences can be immediate. A stroke occurs when the brain's blood supply is interrupted either by a clot that blocks a vessel or a rupture that causes bleeding into the brain. In both cases, cells begin to die within minutes. But strokes don't appear out of nowhere. They often result from subtle damage, small disruptions in the vascular system building quietly over time. The brain hates unpredictability. Sudden changes in blood pressure, dehydration, or chemical imbalances can all act as triggers. Even temporary narrowing of blood vessels, called vasoconstriction, can reduce blood flow to key regions. Artificial compounds, certain additives, and poorly regulated electrolytes can all interfere with these systems even in people who appear otherwise healthy. This is especially true for the thin, intricate vessels in the brain's cortex, areas responsible for memory, language, movement, and emotion. Some compounds cause inflammation in these vessels. Others interfere with how the brain regulates glucose, leading to insulin spikes, mood disturbances, and microvascular stress. When these effects are subtle, they go unnoticed. But over time, they compound. And when a trigger finally tips the balance, a vessel narrows, pressure spikes, or blood clots, a stroke may follow. The question is, can one drink trigger this process? Not in everyone, but in millions, possibly. And as we'll now see, many are drinking it every day, thinking they're making the healthier choice. When people hear the phrase dangerous drink, their minds often go straight to the usual suspects: sugary sodas, energy drinks packed with caffeine, alcohol in its many forms, wine, beer, spirits. And there's good reason for that. These drinks have long been linked to a range of health problems: metabolic disease, liver strain, high blood pressure, and neurological decline. Most people already know this. And because they know it, they take steps to cut back. Some switch to water. Others choose moderation. And many, in an effort to be healthier, reach for a so-called better option. The shelves are filled with them. Slim cans, bright colors, promises like zero sugar, guilt-free, light, or diet. These drinks are marketed with a kind of silent reassurance. This is the smart choice, the healthy swap, but the assumption is flawed. Because while they may be free of sugar or calories, they are not free of neurological impact. In fact, some of the compounds used to replace sugar may have deeper and more immediate effects on the brain's vascular system than sugar itself. Artificial sweeteners, synthetic flavorings, stabilizers. These are not inert ingredients. They interact with the gut, with insulin signaling, and with the endothelial lining of blood vessels. And it's here, in the quiet space between intention and impact, that risk begins to grow. Most people believe they've made a safe choice. They've traded one risk for something better. But in doing so, they may have unknowingly stepped into a new kind of danger, one harder to see, harder to feel, and only now coming into focus through clinical research. In the next chapter, we name it clearly. The drink that raises stroke risk for millions isn't sweetened with sugar. It's sweetened with chemistry. Artificially sweetened beverages, especially diet sodas and zero-calorie energy drinks, are among the most widely consumed, health-conscious drinks in the modern world. They promise all the pleasure of sweetness, with none of the guilt. But behind those promises are compounds like aspartame, sucralose, acesulfame potassium, and saccharin, substances created not in nature but in laboratories. These sweeteners were approved based on limited short-term safety testing. But only recently have researchers begun to understand their effects over time, especially on the vascular system and the brain. In multiple observational studies, adults who consumed artificially sweetened drinks daily were found to have a significantly higher risk of ischemic stroke, the kind caused by a clot cutting off blood flow. One landmark study, published in the journal Stroke, followed thousands of people over a decade. Those who drank at least one diet soda per day had nearly 3 times the risk of stroke or dementia compared to those who did not. These are not theoretical numbers. They are real-world observations based on measurable outcomes. What's most concerning is that these effects are not limited to older adults. Even younger, otherwise healthy people may be vulnerable, especially if other risk factors are present like high blood pressure, smoking, or a sedentary lifestyle. Many believe they're choosing wisely by avoiding sugar, but they may be unknowingly introducing substances that interfere with insulin regulation, damage blood vessel linings, and alter neurochemical balance. The label may say zero sugar, but for the brain's vascular system, the cost could be far greater than zero. When it comes to health claims, opinions can be loud, but data is quiet, steady, and harder to ignore. In recent years, the scientific community has begun paying closer attention to artificially sweetened beverages, not just in terms of weight or metabolism, but their deeper vascular and neurological effects. In 2017, a major study published in the Stroke Journal, part of the American Heart Association's research, revealed that people who drank 1 or more diet sodas per day had a nearly 3-fold increased risk of stroke or dementia. This wasn't an isolated finding. The Women's Health Initiative, which tracked over 80,000 postmenopausal women, also found a clear link between daily diet drink consumption and stroke risk, particularly ischemic stroke, the type caused by blood vessel blockage. But what causes this? Lab studies suggest several pathways. Artificial sweeteners may alter gut microbiota, triggering systemic inflammation. They can affect insulin sensitivity, leading to vascular stress. And they may impact endothelial function, the smooth lining of blood vessels that controls dilation and blood flow. In some studies, even a single serving of artificially sweetened beverages led to measurable increases in blood pressure, a key risk factor for stroke. Add to this the emerging data on their effects on brain signaling. Increased excitability, disrupted dopamine response, and impaired regulation of hunger and reward. It's a complex, multi-system effect. And while no single drink guarantees harm, repeated exposure, especially in those genetically or medically vulnerable, can gradually shift the body toward conditions where stroke risk becomes real. This isn't just about calories or cravings anymore. It's about how the brain and body respond to what they were never built to recognize as food. The phrase sugar-free has become one of the most powerful labels in modern food marketing. It suggests discipline, intelligence, responsibility. People who choose sugar-free options often believe they're doing something good for their bodies, avoiding weight gain, protecting their teeth, and controlling blood sugar. The packaging reinforces this. Slim fonts, clean colors, words like zero, light, or smart. But labels do not tell the full story. Most consumers never stop to ask, what replaced the sugar? And more importantly, how does that replacement affect the body? The marketing of diet beverages has created a powerful illusion that removing sugar makes a drink safe. But the reality is more complicated. Artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, and acesulfame potassium were approved decades ago, long before researchers fully understood how food chemicals interact with the gut-brain axis, the vascular system, or neurological pathways. The brain doesn't just process taste. It processes chemical signals, When it detects sweetness without calories, it responds with confusion. Insulin may still be triggered. Appetite may increase. Neurochemical signaling may shift in unpredictable ways. And over time, these reactions can contribute to hypertension, vascular stress, and eventually stroke risk. But none of this is mentioned in the ads. Zero sugar is repeated. Guilt-free is promised. The drinks are positioned as lifestyle enhancers, modern, intelligent, and safe. In truth, they are pharmaceutical-grade sweeteners delivered in liquid form. Often consumed daily by people unaware of their neurological and vascular impact. The risk isn't just what's in the drink. It's what's missing from the conversation. Not everyone who drinks artificially sweetened beverages will experience harm. But certain groups are far more vulnerable and the risks for them may be significantly higher. The first group, those with pre-existing vascular conditions. People with high blood pressure, diabetes, or a history of transient ischemic attacks. Often called mini-strokes, may already have compromised blood vessels. For them, any added strain from chemical additives can accelerate damage. The second group, postmenopausal women. Multiple studies, including the Women's Health Initiative, found that older women who consumed one or more diet drinks per day had a sharply increased risk of ischemic stroke. This may be due to hormonal changes that affect blood vessel elasticity and insulin sensitivity. The third group, young adults who consume diet drinks daily, often as part of fitness or weight loss routines. Ironically, those trying to stay healthy may be unknowingly exposing themselves to substances that disrupt glucose regulation, elevate blood pressure, and increase cravings. Fourth, individuals with migraines or neurological sensitivities. Certain artificial sweeteners, particularly aspartame, have been linked in some studies to headaches, mood disturbances, and even changes in neurotransmitter activity. For these individuals, even low daily doses may be enough to trigger symptoms. And finally, people with a genetic predisposition to insulin resistance or endothelial dysfunction, many of whom may be unaware of their risk. Stroke isn't always preceded by symptoms. Sometimes the damage is cumulative, quiet, and invisible, until the moment it's not. For these vulnerable groups, avoiding artificially sweetened drinks isn't about paranoia. It's about removing a variable that could tip an already fragile balance. In the next chapter, we look at how this imbalance plays out inside the brain at the moment of crisis. A stroke is not always loud. It doesn't always arrive with drama or warning. Sometimes it begins in silence, a sudden pause in blood flow deep within the brain's delicate pathways. The cause may be a clot, a narrowed artery, or a spasm in the vessel wall. Whatever the trigger, the result is the same: oxygen stops reaching brain tissue. Within seconds, neurons begin to struggle. Electrical activity slows. Cellular function collapses. In just 5 minutes without blood, brain cells begin to die. If the clot clears, it may be called a transient ischemic attack, a warning shot. But if blood flow remains blocked, the damage becomes permanent. Speech may disappear. Vision may fade. Balance, memory, or even personality may change in an instant. In many cases, the stroke affects the middle cerebral artery, the main vessel feeding the areas responsible for movement and language. The aftermath isn't just physical. Survivors often describe confusion, emotional flatness, or sudden mood shifts. These are not psychological, they're neurological. The brain's circuits have been altered. What makes this all the more tragic is that many strokes are preventable. Tiny decisions like what someone drinks daily may tip the scales. Substances that increase blood pressure, trigger vasoconstriction, or worsen insulin resistance create the conditions where a stroke becomes more likely. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Sometimes overnight. And for those already living close to the edge, one more drink may be enough. In the next chapter, we'll confront the truth. For many, this danger has been hiding in plain sight. The risks linked to artificially sweetened drinks are not a secret. The research exists. The data is public. The warnings, though quiet, are growing. So why don't more people know? The answer lies in a mix of marketing, science lag, and a deeply ingrained belief: if it's on a grocery shelf, it must be safe. Unlike tobacco or alcohol, diet beverages are not socially controversial. They're offered at school events, lined up in hospital vending machines, endorsed by fitness influencers. Even doctors, caught in outdated dietary paradigms, may recommend them as a better choice for patients managing diabetes or weight. Meanwhile, food corporations invest billions in advertising and product placement. clinical findings rarely make it into those glossy narratives. The focus remains on calories, not chemistry. The science itself moves slowly. Long-term human studies are difficult and expensive. Researchers are cautious, often stopping short of declaring causation. And yet, the patterns are becoming impossible to ignore. Multiple population studies have shown strong associations between daily consumption of artificially sweetened drinks and higher risk of stroke, dementia, and metabolic syndrome. But associations don't make headlines. They raise questions many institutions are reluctant to confront. And so, the truth stays buried beneath fine print and academic journals, while millions continue to sip something that may be silently reshaping their neurological future. The danger isn't hidden. It's just not acknowledged. But as the evidence grows, so does the responsibility to change course. And that begins with awareness. In the final chapter, we return to clarity. What to do now, what to avoid, and how to protect the most sensitive organ we have, the brain. Not all choices are dramatic. Some of the most powerful changes in health begin with a quiet shift, the contents of a glass, the label read twice, the decision to put something back on the shelf. So, what now? The data is clear. Artificially sweetened beverages, particularly when consumed daily, carry measurable risk to the brain's vascular health. And for those in vulnerable groups, older adults, hypertensive patients, and people with metabolic issues, that risk is not theoretical. The first step is simple: awareness. Look beyond the sugar-free label. Question ingredients like aspartame, sucralose, acesulfame, potassium. The second step is replacement, not with sugar, but with hydration that supports, not stresses, the brain. Water infused with real citrus, herbs, or cucumber. Unsweetened teas. Sparkling mineral water without additives. These are not trends. They are time-tested ways of restoring fluid balance without chemical disruption. For those needing sweetness, a modest use of natural alternatives like stevia or monk fruit in whole leaf or minimally processed forms may offer a better neurological profile, though even these should be used with mindfulness. And most importantly, connect the choice to the long game, preserving vascular health, supporting stable insulin responses, and protecting the complex, delicate network inside the brain. Stroke risk is not just a matter of genetics or age. It's shaped, sip by sip, day by day, by what we choose to consume. The goal isn't fear, it's clarity. Because when the brain is at stake, even small changes become acts of protection. And sometimes the difference between damage and resilience is simply knowing what not to drink.